sunrise. Something glorious or shining.
It's so calm. You can really hear these kind of like East Asian sort of influences. Like it definitely sounds kind of pentatonic.
You could feel the rocking of the waves almost. Sort of melancholy, nostalgia.
Debussy and I have been friends for a long time, and we've known each other for a long time, but I'm always discovering new things. We always ask ourselves, why did the composer write this and not that? I mean, he had a choice. And how is this piece put together? What we want to do as musicians, and especially as young musicians, is learn music so that it's one of our mother tongues. I mean, this sort of a project is not the sort of thing that we have time for in the real world. But that's what's wonderful about it. I mean, we really have the time to take it apart, to look at it, to examine it, to put it in context. It's not just to put on a good performance, but it's really so that we can all look at what does it mean to be well prepared, and what does it mean to know about to know everything you can about what you're playing. That's a super important one. Here we go.
In thinking about how we were going to find guides and tour guides to lead us through this, it was important to have somebody who could really talk deeply about the music and what went into the construction of the music. That's often an important part of this project for me. And also then to have someone who could talk about the various movements in place in terms of literature and art.
Debussy was trying to show a kind of darkness. The sea is very deep. We may look at the surface, but we cannot be thinking only of the surface. We have to think of all that is going on underneath, and that those dark undercurrents are part of the sound. And I think that's what makes the piece always interesting, always mysterious, and always, for me, therefore wonderful. Now, there was one other thing, a final influence, and that is non-Western music that Debussy encountered at the Paris World's Fair. Here is the Paris World's Fair. It's kind of laid out. There's an overview of it, and he heard Asian music. Here are the Javanese dancers that obviously capture the imagination of this illustrator. He later said that this music makes the most complex polyphony of Palestrina sound like child's play. There was one afternoon when Debussy was visited by Stravinsky and Erik Satie, the wittiest of all composers who ever lived, and they all took pictures of one another. Here's a photograph by Satie of Debussy standing and Stravinsky sitting in the chair. I want you to focus on the prints on the wall behind, which are two Japanese prints. And the one on the top is the one that is really relevant to us, The Great Wave off Kanagawa by Hokusai. Because Debussy loved this print. It was a very popular image in Paris, and he owned a copy, and he wanted that on the cover of La Mer. And so this is the original edition of La Mer. There's the cover. And I think you can see that he's taken a part of that Hokusai print and modified it. Here are the two of them together. Debussy himself, on several occasions, said that if he had not become a musician, he would have become a sailor. That would have been his profession. I don't know whether you would have guessed that of him, but his father joined the Marines when he was 18 years old and used to talk about his trips to the tropics. But a little anecdote that I want to relate to you was a story that a friend of his told about a boat ride at sea that he took with Debussy, and the boat was bouncing up and down, he said, like a porpoise during a kind of freezing rainstorm. And Debussy was one of the few passengers who didn't get sick. And he wanted to stand up on this boat and enjoy every minute of it. The captain said that everyone was being endangered by this and they needed to go back. But Debussy's response was, "There is one powerful sensation that I have not experienced, the sensation of danger. It is not unpleasant. You are alive." I was very lucky to have studied with a famous French music teacher named Nadia Boulanger. And she often used to quote a saying by Paul Valéry that is on the Palais de Trocadero, which is just opposite the Eiffel Tower. If you're at the Eiffel Tower looking across the Seine, you'll see the palace. And the inscription says, I'll try to translate it roughly, "It depends on the passerby whether I am a treasure or a tomb, whether I speak or remain silent. It all depends on you. Do not enter without desire."
We've covered Debussy in my music history classes, but it's usually kind of like a drive-by, like Debussy, Impressionism, Symbolism, he wrote La Mer, and some other stuff, moving on. And so I think this experience has been really helpful in sort of broadening my concept of like, you know, Debussy didn't just write this because it's hard for horn. He wrote this because he had, you know, listened to this music and he had read this book and he had looked at this painting, and this is what he's trying to convey, and this is his aesthetic, and this is his preference, and like all of these different factors, like extra musical factors, which aren't inherent in the printed music, and they're things that are really easy to overlook if you're just focused on practicing the music. I think in the performance, it can lead to a more nuanced performance of this specific piece, but also carrying across the idea of really, you know, understanding what's going on in the music, around the music, rather than just what's on the page.
Music can be seen as selfish or selfless. Really, really trying to give yourself as much information as you can, self-correct as much as you can, think about everything as much as you can bear, and then trying to convey that and give it out to an audience. This music has meaning. This has context. It's real. It's not just a collection of notes. A program that emphasizes that tells us it's important, will make us feel important. These are things, you know, not only for musicians, but also as people. So important to sort of see what lies elsewhere, always.
I had no idea of a French literature person until I actually spoke to my French colleague on the piano faculty, Jean-Louis Augenard, and he said, "I have the perfect person for you."
I'm very happy that I have the opportunity to meet these musicians and to share what I personally know about the artistic context, in particular the literary context. It's a great opportunity to make links between different art forms.
Debussy is often associated with Impressionism rather than with symbolism. But I find this association problematic for multiple reasons, which I'm going to explain. The symbols that we find in symbolist works have no defined and unequivocal meanings. Like in this proto-symbolist painting by the Anglo-Swiss painter Henry Fuseli, the question is, what is the significance of this monkey seated on the woman's chest, or the ghostly horse that is behind? What is the significance of these symbols? It's difficult to say. We can attempt to formulate a Freudian unconscious interpretation of these symbols. It can be a symbol of madness, or of monstrous desire, or of male oppression, etc. Many different possibility of meaning, but their meanings remain undefined. We don't know how the beauty of a work of art is done, in Debussy's term, but also what it means. Debussy says that music contains something of the magical, that is something inexplicable, undefinable. On the contrary, symbolist artists tend to go beyond reality in their works in order to pursue a higher spiritual meaning. Debussy's La Mer is not an unequivocal representation of the sea, like this painting by Monet, unequivocally a seascape, even though we can see here already a trend to abstraction, but it's not the case. The reality, the referent is still there. It is the sea. In Debussy's music, we cannot say the same. So Impressionist painters never completely renounced reality. They focused on the optical perception of reality, but without renouncing it.
He really brings forward the idea that Debussy was not an Impressionist composer, but rather someone whose leanings were more toward the symbolists. And of course, this I knew was going to be controversial, and it is controversial, but it's also real, and it bears facts to defend it.
We feel greater enthusiasm for what we're doing, and in the very best case scenario, that comes out in greater music making and greater energy and greater love for what we're doing and greater attention to ourselves in performing what the composer has asked us to do.
But in this project, we've really been like picking the music apart and getting down to these really small details, which it's usually just not possible to do because we're in such a rush to like, okay, let's put it together and play the concert and like stay together, stay in time. Like we're not at that level. We're on a much, much deeper level of really understanding the music.
It takes time. It takes hours in a practice room. It takes hours and days and weeks and lifetimes thinking about music. And it's not the way that many people live now. And when you've gone down this path, and I tell this to my conducting students a lot, once you know how you can do it, there's no going back.
So the symbolists believed in the existence of an ideal world more real than the world of the senses, accessible only through art. Mallarmé said that poetry should not inform, it should suggest and evoke. Poetry should not name things, but should create their atmosphere. And I think this is what Debussy wanted to do in La Mer. You may feel this is a wave, this is a breeze, but Debussy is not trying to imitate a wave or imitate a breeze. He's trying to evoke its atmosphere, much as a symbolist poet might do it.
Hearing both talks, I think the students have now come to understand the complexity around living in a time with several cross currents that require contemplation. A project like this has ramifications that are pretty much limitless.